In this particular lesson, we are going to focus our energies on a unit under athletic track, and those are the relays. Now, a relay team, a complete relay team, is made up of 4 sprinters, and the ultimate goal of the relay is to pass this baton around the track up to the finishing point, and the first team to get to the finishing point is the winning team. So one key feature is that the baton has to be passed on. Now usually there are 2 common relays. The first is the 4 by 100 meters, and the second one is the 4 by 400 meters. So how does the relay work? So this team of 4 sprinters can actually win a team of the best sprinters you can have. How? The secret is beating the faster team in what is called the exchange zone that we shall see. Now, let me show you a picture here so that we understand. You notice there is what is called the exchange zone, that's about 20 meters, and there is what is called the acceleration zone, that is about 10 meters. Now, let's go back. We said a winning team can beat the best sprinters in the exchange zone, which we said is about 20 meters long. Now, after the exchange zone comes a 20-meter acceleration zone. Now, the receiver begins running in the acceleration zone, but the baton can only be passed within the exchange zone. Therefore, within this zone, the runners switch the baton. If the first runner coming in is holding the baton in the right hand, he will hand it over, and the second runner will receive it in the left hand. So we've been talking about the zones. The acceleration zone leads up to the changeover zone, which allows the runner who is getting to receive the baton to start and pick up speed. But the baton cannot be received in the acceleration zone. So it is an area where the runner is picking up speed, but he does not receive the baton in this zone. So on a track, this acceleration zone is represented by a small triangle. Keep that, we shall see that when we are marking the field. Now, the exchange zone, which you said is about 20 meters, this is where the baton is exchanged. And the moment, if a baton is not exchanged from the incoming runner to the outgoing runner within these 20 meters, the team is disqualified. So, on the track field, this zone is represented by 2 large painted triangles. So, 2 large painted triangles, you see them? You see the triangles? That is for the exchange zone, and then the acceleration zone is represented by a small triangle. Now, let's focus on passing and receiving the baton. So the pattern is, if the first person coming in is holding it in the right hand, the second will receive it in the left hand, the third, the right, and the fourth, the left. Under no circumstances should the baton be switched to a different hand or moved during a race. That is why it's important that the sprinter holds the baton firmly to avoid any accidental drops and to give the outgoing runner room to take the baton. So you notice that a runner is picking up the baton, from the incoming. Now, you notice there is a receiving, isn't it? So we want now to focus on what we call types of baton exchange. Now, there are two types. One is the visual, and the second one is the non-visual. As the name suggests, in the visual baton exchange, the one receiving, the one passing, there are clues to this. Now, the visual is mainly used during the longer distances, that is the 4x400. Why? Because the runners here are not at top speed, so they can use their visual to pass on. Please watch those videos to see this visual exchange. Now, let's look at the non-visual baton exchange. This is used for the shorter relays, that's the 4x100 meters, and we have three types. We have the upsweep, the downsweep, and the push pass. Let's start with the upsweep. Now, as this arm indicates, the receiving hand is extended behind the hips, it's extended at the back, and the palm is open, so there is that gap between the thumb and the other fingers. You see that gap, and then the incoming athlete passes the baton in an upward movement. That is why it is called the upsweep. You see, upward movement, it enters that zone and the outgoing picks it up. Now there is the downward sweep. Again, the arm is extended at the hip, and now the palm is facing upwards, as opposed to the other method we just said where the palm is facing downwards. And then there is an angle between the thumb and the rest of the fingers. Now, what is the advantage of this one? There is no manipulation. There is no manipulation of the baton to pass it safely to the next individual. The disadvantage is not necessarily a natural method of the hand receiving. Usually the hand will receive naturally when the palm is facing downward. That is the disadvantage of this method. The final one is the push-pass technique. So the outgoing runner extends out the arm. You see him extending out the arm. He's left a gap for the one that is going to pick up. You see, so it's a push up. It's a push pass, and the incoming runner holds the baton vertically and pushes it straight into the open arm of the incoming. That is the third technique that can be used. So the incoming athlete will call hand so that the other individual can prepare. Now, it is best the first runner to run on the inside of the lane. You remember, this is the lane, so he runs on the inside of the lane, carrying the baton in the right hand, while now the second runner is running on the outside of the lane. So there's that gap to create the right hand giving the left, isn't it? Now, the third runner therefore will run close to the inside of the lane, and the fourth runner will run outside of the lane to the finishing point. It is advisable that the stronger member of the team should come off the fourth, so that he can compete favorably. So you notice the first runner is inside lane, holding it in the right hand, while the second one in the outside lane. So that's what we call the outer lane. So that he receives receives in the left. So let's move now to techniques of relays. Techniques of relays. How many stages are there in relay running? There are 4 stages. The first stage, we call it the movement phase. Here the runners have to warm up. Why is it important? Because if you don't warm up, there is a risk of muscle tension. So we also want the joints to start lubricating, So do some local activities, localized activity, let's say around the hips and around the ankles, things like that. So here the runner in movement phase is basically mentally preparing for this big run. Now, from that, we progress to the starting phase. In the starting phase, here we want to emphasize running rhythm is very important. The running rhythm is very, very important so that you move faster. We progress to the acceleration phase. Pay attention to your heart rate. Pay attention to your heart rate, your breathing rate. It is recommended that have deep breath and exhale completely. Why is that important? So that there is oxygen exchange within the alveoli, within the lungs. Breathe in strongly, breathe out strongly. And also, at this stage, we recommend that you should not swing the arms too hard. Why? To avoid losing strength. Now, the sprint phase, pretty close to the acceleration phase, apply good deep breathing. Yeah, good deep breathing to avoid fatigue. Because when you are fatigued, you are now moving into the anaerobic respiration that does not require oxygen, which usually accumulates lactic acid in the muscles, and those are going to bring about pain. Finishing phase, slow down slowly. So when you're done, do not sit down. Do not sit down all the time, right? And it is during this rest period that runners are encouraged to replace the energy, to take drinks, for example, the electrolyte drinks that quickly rejuvenate the person. So that closes our topic on relays. That closes our topic on relays. Let's look forward to our third unit, still on the athletic track.